The original design for the basilica included only one apse, this one at the western end of the nave. The reason why the northern apse was added is discussed in the stop dedicated to that space. Near here in 1486 were found 9 fragments of a colossal marble statue in a sitting position, which is today one of the most iconic items in the collections of the Capitoline Museums. Based on the height of the well-preserved head fragment, we can estimate that the seated statue rose to a height of almost 10 meters on its base, which must have added another meter or two. So, including the base, this statue is estimated to have risen to a height of at least 11 meters or 36 feet from the floor. Scholars generally agree that the statue occupied the apse where the fragments were found. There it served as a focal point of attention for those entering the basilica from the eastern side. It can be securely identified as Constantine by prominent features observed in his numerous preserved portraits: the upward-turned eyes, the bowl-cut hairstyle fringed with curls, and the prominent bulbous chin. The statue is particularly interesting because it is a rare example of a special type known as an acrolith, an ancient Greek term meaning stone extremities. The ancients did not carve colossal stone statues out of solid blocks because the arms and legs risked being detached by stress cracks. Instead, they constructed colossal stone statues by using dowels to attach the extremities, head, arms, and legs, to a core block which served as the torso. In the case of Constantine, in addition to his head, which is 8 feet or 2.6 meters tall, the 8 surviving fragments represent his right arm, right leg, and left foot. The right hand grasps a cylindrical object which projected above and below, as indicated by dowel holes. A fragment of his left pectoral area and shoulder, recovered near the basilica in 1951, indicates that he was represented with bare chest. From these fragments, we can reconstruct the statue as a typical image employed by Roman emperors in statues, coins, engraved gems, and other media. Constantine is represented as Jupiter, the king of the universe, a metaphor for the emperor's power over his realm. In such images, Jupiter or the emperor is seated and clothed in a type of robe called a hip mantle that covers his lap, left forearm, left leg, and right thigh. A corner of the mantle is also piled on his left shoulder. A large hole in the right kneecap demonstrates that the mantle of this statue was made not of real fabric, but of bronze sheets, which were fastened to the statue at various points. In his right hand he held a scepter as a symbol of power, and in his left hand a globe as a symbol of dominion. Both of these items were also doubtless made of bronze and attached to the marble hands. The first emperor to be depicted as Jupiter was Augustus, and many of his successors followed in his footsteps, although such depictions were probably all posthumous because the reigning emperor could not present himself in the city of Rome as a divinity without offending traditional Roman religious sentiment. This taboo may have fallen by the wayside in the late 3rd century, when the tetrarchs began to present themselves as almost superhuman beings. In fact, the senior tetrarch called himself Jovius to advertise a close connection with Jupiter. The starting point for our reconstruction of the statue was a 3D model of it made from 3D scans of the surviving fragments in the Capitoline Museums. The scans and model were created in 2005 by Arctron, a German digital archaeology company under the direction of Dr. Eckhard Kuehne and Martin Scheich. We thank Arctron for licensing our use of their model. The version of the statue that you see now is the Arctron model. Thanks to the magic of virtual reality, we can also show you which parts of the model are based on the marble artifacts recovered from the Basilica of Maxentius. They are indicated with yellow highlighting. Everything that is not yellow is hypothetical. When we switch back to our version of the statue, you will notice immediately that it differs from the Arctron model in some of the details. Most notably, in the Arctron model, the hip mantle covers most of the left side of the statue, and the color of the hair and eyes is different. In making our version of the statue, we enlisted the help of John Polini, professor of art history at the University of Southern California and an expert on Roman imperial sculpture. Since statues of the emperor as Jupiter typically did not have the hip mantle covering the left side, the statue of Constantine probably had a left arm in marble. The upper half was carved as a unit with the torso block, and the forearm was attached at the elbow with a dowel. The bronze sheets of the hip mantle were attached in such a way as to conceal this joint as well as the hip joints. The bronze would have been fused with additional minerals to give it a strong red color imitating the crimson red of imperial mantles, which typically had a band of gold decoration along the edges. Finally, there is no evidence for the color of Constantine's hair and eyes. Therefore, the more common brown is a safer choice for both. An interesting feature of the statue is that it bears signs of modification indicating it once depicted a different emperor. Much of the hairline around the crown was cut away and replaced with Constantine's characteristic bowl cut, and holes were cut in front of the ears for the attachment of his characteristic long sideburns. The details of the carving style, particularly the realistic treatment of the muscles and veins in the right arm and feet, suggest that the statue was originally carved in the 2nd century CE. Some scholars identify the subject as the Emperor Hadrian, who ruled from 117 to 138, but it may also have been his predecessor Trajan or one of his successors, Antoninus Pius and Marcus Aurelius. No matter who it was, the facial features of the original subject had to be radically reshaped in order to render Constantine's angular cheeks and projecting chin. There are also signs of a previous reworking of the statue, probably to represent Maxentius. The appropriation of the statue of a predecessor may at first strike us as irreverent, but it was actually part of a wider pattern. Constantine's triumphal arch, located a stone's throw to the southeast, extensively employs marble reliefs created in the reigns of Trajan, Hadrian, and Marcus Aurelius, the so-called good emperors of the 2nd century. In these images, too, the facial features of the emperors were recarved to depict Constantine. Scholars once attributed the reuse of these reliefs to a general impoverishment of art caused by the long interruption of imperial building projects between 235 and 284. Thus, Constantine was forced to scavenge from older monuments if he wanted attractive images. But recently, scholarship has emphasized that the majority of the arch is covered with images created by contemporary artists, which means that local talent was still available. In this reading, Constantine's employment of images created by 3 specific predecessors, all of whom were ranked among the best and most successful emperors in Rome's history, was likely a deliberate choice. Perhaps he wanted to evoke Rome's golden age in the 2nd century, or to present himself as one of Rome's most successful emperors, or both. The same motives may have been behind the transformation of the acrolithic statue.